Good morning and welcome to the Morning Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Camp, coming to you as always from the Spotlight Studios here in Morristown, New Jersey. My guest today is the VP of Investor Relations of Three Keys Investments. She's an apartment investor, coach, writer, outdoor and mountain bike enthusiast, connector, and host of the Ask Me How I Know podcast, where she and her guests bring a fresh perspective to problem solving in the multifamily niche and addressing mindset. She is Julie Holly. Julie, welcome to the show.
That is me. I am Julie Holly. Yes, yeah. I'm so excited to be here. I would just absolutely fell in love with your show when I was doing my homework and listening to the episode with you and Chris, and I was just absolutely wowed. You had a statement. Can I jump in?
Yeah.
I'm like,
right. We're going.
Oh my gosh.
This is it. Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah. So everyone knows this is the first time that Julie and I have ever talked outside of just a quick LinkedIn conversation to set this up. And that's it. So we're getting to know each other as everybody else is getting to know each other. So hit me. What do you got?
Okay, but we'll back up and let's start there, because that was hilarious because everybody has their fancy scheduling links. And I'm like, yeah, so Mike, you got a link for me? Got anything? You're like, old school. Let's just do this.
Let's just talk. Yeah.
It's crazy. And we were able to no back and forth. Just I popped throughout a day and time and it was like, boom, done.
Yeah. That is the wonders of the work from home lifestyle, right? Because now my schedule becomes very flexible, and this is part of work. So it all kind of works together, so it just worked out great. I do have a Calendly now though, because I did check again and now I could actually set one up because it's actually made life somewhat easier, because that was a very rare instance of me, just nailing a date right away. Monday. Okay, great. Yeah. Noon. Great. Cool. All right. See you there. But yeah, so Calendly now. So, we figured we got a little bit more high tech. So,
okay, that begs another question then. Okay. Does that decrease because it's efficient? And when I started scheduling podcasts like that, it made my life so much easier and it relieved the burden of responsibility for everybody involved. Yeah. But does it take out the human element to where you're not disconnected with people?
I'm going to say no, because I have those conversations first and I tell them, at least this is very new. It's only been a week since I've had this Calendly link. So I don't think so, but I only give it to people that I want to have on the show that I've had conversations with already. So I'm like, hey, let's have you on the show. And they're always like, sure. And then we have the, nice little convo, maybe a intro call or whatever. And then I say, okay, I'll send you the Calendly link. You pick a day that works for you. I have it set up so it just works with my calendar. And then they just take it from there and then we're all good. So I think that maybe just takes away a little of it used to be send me dates. And then they would send me 4 dates and be like, okay, this one works, and just pick a random one. But, I do think it does a little bit, I guess. But at the same time, I think that I do enough of the personal end of it to at least make it engaging and personal. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm with you. And honestly, the back and forth can become, when I used to do that, it can become really overwhelming for everybody involved. And then it's like, this is so much work. Is this the universe trying to say that I don't need this person on my show?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, that's another thing too. If it's just such a pain, or if I have to constantly chase you down to try to get you on the show, then, not to sound arrogant, and I'm sure you're the same way. It's not like we necessarily have a shortage of people that would want to come on the show and talk about the stuff that they want to talk about. So if we go back and forth a couple of times and then you kind of fall off the wagon, I don't know if that's the right term, but I'm not going to turn the wagon around and come pick you back up. I mean, I got stuff I got to do. I mean, I work a 9-to-5 job selling title and also run this show, and I'm head chef and chief bottle washer here. So I do it all. Schedule, record it, edit it, market it, everything. So it is what it is. So that's why I think the Calendly link might work a little bit better, because then it's like, hey, here, pick. If you don't pick, fine. If you pick, then great. We'll see you whatever time you actually schedule the recording. So
I'm with you on that. And, aside from recording, just to zero in for whatever reason on this whole Calendly thing, or whatever scheduling people use, it's kind of it also gives you control of your time. And so that's the part that I'm really enjoying is hey, I know this is when I'm available and this is when I'm not available. So I can really be present. I'm here with you right now. And I'm not hey, well, now I had to change locations. I'm not in my own studio, so I'm not even sidetracked by any computer screens. But
right.
it's
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, like this is, I mean, I like the virtual background. This may or may not be a virtual background myself. But I mean, I do like now you have the 3 Keys investment thing back there. You have
Right. Yeah.
the
Everything.
Centurion, which I learned what that was. And that's not an Emmy. Even though I feel like it probably should be after listening to the show. You got a bunch of cool stuff back there. So, I mean, you got a nice little window that makes it nature. You know, you're in Idaho. I know that, right? Idaho.
Oh, yes, I am. I
Yeah, it's
love where I live.
nature. Yeah, right. So
Yeah, we
there you
got
go. But
nature.
yeah, you were gonna say something really nice about me and the show before we got on this Calendly rabbit hole. So please,
I know.
I mean,
So
I'm not gonna
I'm
stop you
going.
from giving me a compliment, please.
I know. I'm totally going there. So, because as a fellow podcaster, I'm not going to forget. It's like, okay, just like mark that spot. You're coming back to it.
Right.
So, as I was listening to that conversation with you and Chris, one, he's fantastic. You're fantastic. It was super vibrant conversation. But you made this comment, and it was really interesting. You guys, like, halfway, 3/4 of the way through, you're like, I just realized I couldn't be all things everywhere. I had, and I'm going to butcher this, but you're like, I kind of had work mic, and then I had like Facebook mic, and I had this, like, you had all the different versions, and you just consolidated and said, you know what, I'm just going to put it all here, and this is who I am.
Yeah.
And you guys both were talking about, hey, people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And, I'm just going to be authentic, and this is who I am. And the thing that really stood out to me, I don't know if it's something that's like in the air or somehow I'm tracking on this, but that's exactly what I just went through. I'm rebranding right now. And I actually have julieholly.com. And I just decided, like, I asked my web designer, I just said, you know what, can we just, I feel like all of my worlds just need to be in one spot. Yeah. I feel like I want everyone to just be able to access everything I do, because I do a lot of different things just like you. And it's like, I just want them to see my whole world. Can we just create like a back door? And that's what she did. She created a back door, julieholly.com, so that people can go in there and like, they have access to like all things Julie, which sounds really narcissistic. I get that. but
yeah. But you have
I promise I'm not a narcissist.
Yeah. I mean, okay, we'll see as we go through, but I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay. I'll let you rate at the end, scale of 1 to 10.
1 to 10 narcissist level. But no, I mean, I think that to your point, I think you have to be. You know what I mean? Because I think that for me, when I first started this job, so I've been selling title insurance now for going on 4 years, be 4 years in August. And when I started, I had no background in real estate. I had no background in anything that was closely related to what I do now. I was a college baseball coach. So now I sell title insurance. And last year I started this show. So, I mean, I do a lot of different things. And I felt like at the very beginning, I was trying to fit the mold of what I don't know what the mold of a traditional title salesperson is, but people that I have as mentors or whatever that have been doing this for a long time, I go to them and I ask them questions and whatever. And I do a lot of the same things that they did, over the course of their career. But selling title insurance in 2021 is a lot different than selling it in 1991. Like I was one, So there are still some things that are like, they go beyond time and space. Like there's sales tactics that will work, whenever. It doesn't matter what year it is, they're going to work. And that's the trust factor. And how do you build trust? You got to be yourself. And I think that, is one of the things that I was talking to Chris about on that episode. And I think that I try to talk about as many chances as I get, is that like when I started this show, it was only a LinkedIn video series. That's all it was. And I would wear like a suit jacket and like a, shirt. And I would read the questions because I wanted it to be very formal and I wanted it to fit the mold that I thought that I had to be in. And it was
to prove you're professional. I'm professional.
Very professional. Yeah, right. But I mean, like I still am. I almost think that this makes it seem more professional. It's like the fake it till you make it. Now I actually like look like I can be a podcaster, but I also sell title insurance. And I think that being able to combine all those things, people get to know you a lot better. And like listening to your show and looking at like watching some of the videos and stuff like that on YouTube that you put up, you get to know you a little bit better on top of all the stuff that you do on the real estate side. So I think it all works together and it all rows the boat in the same direction,
I'm just going to hop on that boat and paddle for a minute.
Okay.
I just had to say that.
But, we're all about analogies here. We love them. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that's so true. That was one reason I love the whole podcast concept was one, I live in a completely isolated area now. I grew up in California. I lived in Denver. However, I have lived in this small rural town for 5 years. And, in that time, I've, jumped into real estate syndication. I've been in real estate my whole life, if you will, because it's in my family, but this is a new venture and it's very much about your network. So that's how I jumped into podcasting. But to get onto the boat and rowed a little bit, how do people actually get to know you? Because if you are creating content on a consistent basis, you cannot wear the mask all the time. You're going to goof up at some point and people are going to be able to be like, I knew it.
Right.
I knew you're just not that happy. I knew you're not this. You're really not. We found it now. But when you're creating consistent content and you're interviewing a large variety of people, the truth of who you are comes out. You cannot hide it.
Right.
So
yeah, no, that's 100% right. Yeah. I mean, that was the thing, so that original LinkedIn show, I did 60 episodes over a 12-week span, which was a ton.
Oh my gosh.
They were 5 minutes, about on average, about 5 minutes, but same thing. It was, I would schedule them, I would record them, I would edit them. Sometimes I would re-record them if the guest wasn't happy with what they did, and then re-edit them, then post them, and then do all that other kind of stuff. So, but I was also, I mean, you could imagine how electric the content was. It was me reading you 3 questions and then you basically reading me back 3 answers. So it was, it was so good. But
I'm totally going back. I haven't seen them, so I'm going to go back.
Every single one of them is on YouTube. So you could watch from the very beginning. I think May 15th was my first ever episode where it was just me. And then all my interviews. We did a couple blooper reels and stuff like that to fill some content on Memorial Day. And I forget when else, but just kind of July 4th, just to kind of, I didn't want anybody to post on July 4th and not get any views. So I would post those. But anyway, but that's the thing, people just to be me and do these, shows and on Clubhouse and stuff, people talk about pod fade and whatever, where they get not as engaged in the stuff that they're doing because it's hard and they didn't realize how much work it was going to be. And they're like, well, how do you, because I mean, at the time of this recording, I've posted 72 episodes. By the end of the week, it'll be 75. And I've been going since July. And I think that one of the things that allows me to not get there is because I'm just myself. And then I have cool people like yourself on there. So it's a new conversation every time where now I can learn something about what you have going on in the real estate industry, or if it's not a real estate guest, whatever they have going on. And I think that that's what keeps it fresh and fun and makes it, I don't know, it's just something that I want to do for a while because it just makes me better at talking to people and expands my network and connects me with people in Idaho. I live in New Jersey, you live in Idaho. When else would we have ever connected outside of the podcasting world, right?
Right. Yeah, probably never. In all reality, I've connected up with so many people because of that. Do you feel, so I am a year and 3 months into my podcast. I have roughly, 125, 130 episodes out there. And it's commitment and it's determination. Oddly, or coincidentally, I just put out a mindset episode today that talks about everything that you want to do, success is going to come through commitment, determination, and creativity.
Yeah.
And I'm reading a book right now, or just finished reading Michael Neal's book, Super Coach. Highly recommend it because it'll challenge your thinking. It's just this whole mind bending. He throws affirmations under the bus.
Yeah, right.
It's fantastic. So all this to say, I feel and I would love to know if you've had this experience that just by nature of podcasting and engaging with so many different people and getting to know them on, you're still an acquaintance, but a more meaningful acquaintance, basically. It's I feel my personal growth has been expedited.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I would 10,000% agree with that. I just feel better at everything that I do. Because it was that thing, I was the business Mike, the relationship Mike, family Mike, friend Mike, and then Mike that sits at home, watching Netflix. I mean, all those were just different people. And I would try to put on these faces for everybody to try to fit what I needed to, fit for them. And then at some point last year, when I think everybody was forced to kind of spend a lot of time with themselves, especially people like, people like me that live in New Jersey, where I can walk to go get a cup of coffee in the town that I live in and come within 6 feet of probably 20 people in the span of that walk. Maybe living in Idaho in the middle of nowhere might be a little bit different, but like for me, it was, it was hard because I didn't have any chance to, go do the stuff that I normally do. So I was forced to sit and just be with myself for a little bit and figure out what's important. Like, is it worth it to try to put on like this facade to go talk to a real estate attorney? And I think that there are, instances where that's important. You need to do it because it's like part of sales, I guess. But at the same time, the people that I've connected with and I've, have looked back and analyzed those connections, the people that I've connected with better, the clients and the guests, obviously too. And, everybody else, like those have been the ones that I've just kind of been like, we just get to know each other on a more personal level, the know, like, and trust thing. And then I was like, well, why don't I just do that with everything? Like, just be me. And, like, I don't have to put, me in a suit jacket on LinkedIn. I could put me dressed exactly like this in one of my morning spotlight t-shirts, I put that on LinkedIn and people love it. The people that love it will love it more. The people that were always wishy-washy on the whole thing will like it less. And that's fine because that's not who I'm trying to talk to anyway. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to please everybody. It's impossible to please everybody. You got to, connect with the people that really connect with your message and you.
I think that's a hard point of acceptance to get to.
Oh yeah.
I know for me, it's like, I always say like, I'm a recovering people pleaser and everything. But at that point, it's like, do you have enough self-confidence to believe in yourself, to trust yourself, and to rally for yourself so much so that you believe that if this person self-selects out of your system, out of your process, if they like hop off of your email list, if they unsubscribe and all that, and they like, when people choose to do that instead of responding or reacting in a like offended way, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did that, oh, I'm messing up because that one person hopped off or whatever. It's like you get to this different point where you're like, awesome, I just refined myself and I'm attracting these people, and these are the people that we're going to have so much fun doing business together.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I mean, I think that that's like one of the things where the more specific you are to your message and to you and to what you're trying to provide people, with whether it's your podcast or your services that you offer or, whatever it is, I think that that's how you really start to, you take this virtual connection type thing where it's like harder to get in person and, shake hands or do whatever. And you accelerate it harder because it's easy to meet a lot of people in the virtual world, but maybe less personal. But the more authentic you are and the more energy you bring to that conversation, I think that that's how you really start to drive even more connections together. Does that? Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, we're like crew, like
yeah,
we're in
right.
the boat.
We're rowing. Right, yeah, seriously.
We're rowing and we're winning.
Yeah.
But let's talk about that personal evolution for a minute, because it's taken me a very long time to get to a point to where I've been able to put all of my worlds together. So I have a background in real estate. I was a public school educator for 13 years as well. Like, I had parallel careers and lives. I've done so many different things. At some point when you're in your middle years of life, like, you realize, wow, I've acquired this like amazing amount of experience.
Yeah.
And it might not all be just like you. I mean, like, you weren't in title insurance. You were this awesome like baseball coach. Like, how cool is that? Like, seriously, I'm like, I just want to geek out on that because there's so much mindset stuff in there. But it's like when you start, you have to be able to marry your worlds together, or laminate them if you don't like the other words. And it's like putting it together so that it makes sense and it's cohesive and it's one. And sometimes it takes looking at yourself in such a honest way, and to actually, most people have a difficult time cheering themselves on and like praising themselves because they have this misdiagnosed concept of ego. And so it's like being able to say like, whoa, I'm really good at that. And I'm really good at that. And I could get better at that, but I really like it. And I want to keep that in my life.
Right.
And putting it together, like, what was the biggest challenge for you? Like, as you're taking these masks off or like making them into, ooh, Lord of the Rings, like, the one ring that rules them all.
Yeah. I don't know what the biggest challenge was. I think it was just more of like it was a journey for sure. And it was one of those things where, and I think that's where it goes back to last year, was there was just a stretch from like, April, May, whatever it was, all the way through probably to September, where I was just in this apartment basically by myself. Like I would, meet up with friends and the social distance thing and whatever, but the majority of my time was spent here all alone. So the only person I had to hang out with was me. And I think that is something that I think that a lot of people over time, maybe they get to a more advanced time in their life and they're like, oh my God, like I have these regrets. And I think that that's where last year almost is a silver lining for someone like me, because I just took the bull by the horns and was just like, hey, like I'm going to figure me out now. Like, let's just do it so that as we progress through this, like take advantage of the time that I have on my plate right now. So as we progress through this, time, as we seem to kind of coming out the other end of all of it, and we can progress into the rest of my life, I have something that can be of value, actually value to people. You know what I mean? I could take all this stuff that I've built, because and one of the things that I always used to say to myself was that, who else can, be successful in the job that I actually have and sell title insurance, and in a very competitive industry here in New Jersey where everything's regulated and there's hard to get projects and all that kind of stuff. Do this podcast, do all the other stuff that I do. Like, who else does that? Like, not many people. So why am I trying to appease everybody? Just be like, hey, this is what I bring to the table. If you would like to work with me or talk with me on the show or be my friend, cool. If you don't want to, like, that's okay. I'm not going to, again, it's kind of what I was saying before. Like, I'm not going to chase you down and hunt you down and be like, be my friend. You know what I mean? Like, that's not going to happen. But I'm not sure what the biggest challenge was, just sitting with myself and figuring out, once I did take all those masks off, which one was the actual one that was closest to who I thought I actually am. And it's a quest, like it's a never ending quest, because I think that it kind of evolves over time with different life experiences and all that kind of stuff. But I think that's kind of how I went through it. What about you?
Yeah, that's so interesting. I'm running a book club. I part of my development, part of this journey, I ended up determined to like, okay, I'm going to go through Brendon Burchard's High Performance Habits book, but I know that I need outside accountability. So this is what Julie does when I know I really want to do something and I kind of feel like maybe I won't follow through. I just like invite the world to join. Yeah. So I'm right. Like, hey, who wants to do, I've never run a book club before. Like, I didn't tell them that at first, and just like, hey, who wants to read this book with me? Formed this book club. And this is where the teacher Julie comes out, right? And I've had this schedule, had it all dialed in fairly well for my first book club. All that to say, the current book, so it turned into a thing. Like, it was not intended to be a book club like that went on. It was supposed to be like, hey, we're just reading this one book, join this journey with me, we're done. Well, now we're on like book number 5 or 6. So like, it's pretty cool. So in Super Coach, which is our current read, he talks about this concept of like these masks that we put on. And he talks about our personality development and how we're influenced by everything around us as we're young children, like babies even, right? We learn like, oh, if I do this, it makes you happy. If I do that, you're upset with me. And so throughout our like entire existence, we're just like kind of being funneled and shaped and maybe not even completely true to ourselves.
Right.
So it's interesting. I think that I actually just had to accept myself and say, you know what, here are the great things. Here are the things that, I could use some improvement, and and to not like let the things that need improvement weigh you down. Like for me, I couldn't let them weigh me down and suck me down. It's not the end of the world. Like, nobody's perfect. Like, lighten up, enjoy life a little bit, and like put it together. And life's a process and a journey. Just enjoy the ride.
Yeah. I feel like I need to join this book club because I need to read more. That's one of the things that I definitely need to do. So if they're good books, I have, like I told you, I have the links all over here. So I just clicked the book club link just to remind myself to put my name in here. So
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I mean, that's one of the things too, that I think that juggling all those different masks or personalities or whatever you want to call it, like we said before, is exhausting. And then once you get to this point where you're just yourself, like I get tired, like mentally less, does that make sense? Yeah. Because it's just like, you're like constantly trying to put on this act, and that's literally what it is. Like, you're acting. And then all of a sudden now you're just you. And I could talk to you literally, probably all day. and just be like, oh, we're just having a great conversation about a lot of different stuff. And it still piques my interest and keeps me engaged and all that kind of stuff. So,
I think that's someplace where I had to grow, is that I've always been really true to myself and to like my beliefs and to just like, this is just who I am. And so I actually had to get to a point where it was like, you know what? I can be a little effervescent. I can be a little snap, crackle, popish.
Yeah.
And that is really sometimes too much for people. And realizing that that doesn't mean that I'm bad, or I like had to change like all these concepts of my identity, of like perspective shifts, where it's like, you know, just because it's like this, if my daughter, I always tell her she's strong. She's 10 years old. She's like the coolest kid ever. Right. And obviously she's my daughter. Duh,
yeah, right.
You know? That goes without saying. But yesterday I was like, hey, you know, she's like, I'm not strong. And I'm like, but I always tell you you're strong. She's like, well, and she named somebody that told her she's not strong. I said, okay, so you just told me 2 people that tell you you're strong, and you just told me 1 person that tells you you're not strong, and you're going to believe the 1 negative thing instead of receiving the 2 positive. And that's like something I personally had to grow through as well, which is why I could see it in a 10-year-old.
Right.
Like,
well, the negative voices, the negative voices for people are always the loudest ones. You know what I mean? Like they're like, you can get comments or reviews or whatever you're looking for, feedback. And it's like, oh, you always hear the stuff that's like negative the most. And even though there might be one bad, it's like when you look up a restaurant, like I'll read 15 good reviews, and then I read 1 where the service sucked and the food.
We're not going there.
I'm like, I don't know if we should go there, because why would this person write this? It's like, because people like to hate, you know what I mean? So they always like to drag other people down to how they're feeling crappy or whatever. So, but now that we're about a half hour into this episode, let's start the episode.
Oh my gosh.
No, but this has been great so far, because I think it speaks to like what your show is all about. That Ask Me How I Know, because you talk about real estate stuff, which we're going to get into here in a second. Awesome. And also like mindset stuff, like I mentioned in the outset with the little bio. And I think that this has just been a great conversation of 2 people that, like I said at the outset also, we've never talked before. So this is like us getting to know each other while everybody listens. You know, like this is like our first ever call together. And it's just like cool, because we seem to vibe on a lot of the same stuff. And there's like a lot of synergies, I guess, with just like overall mindset, or for lack of a better word. But so tell me, let's just do the real estate stuff.
All right, let's
finally get there. Let's do real estate, and then we'll do more. I mean, not that real estate's not fun work.
Oh my gosh, it's so much fun.
So much fun.
I'm such a nerd. It's so fun. I love
it. But let's talk about that. Like, so how did you get started? I think I know the story, but how did you get started in real estate?
Well, my journey in real estate is one way, and my relationship and journey in syndication is completely different. And so I was raised in a residential real estate home and everything. My husband is a residential broker. Like, real estate's always been part of my life. I've had all this experience, but really what changed my life was when I realized that I had syndicated my robotics team going to the World Show. And so I had just learned about real estate syndication the same year I had launched a junior robotics team in the small rural town, because I'm like, these kids, they should be able to see the world. They should be able to, like be maybe competitive on a global level. Right. Maybe I can bring what I've learned outside in big places here to the small town. So anyhow, I ended up, their first year, they were invited to, I won't lie, it's lottery system at the junior level, but we just put in, we're like, whatever, maybe we'll get to go. We're invited to the World Show, and we were able to get our entire team fully funded with a parent fully funded.
Yeah.
And that was like I just learned about syndication. I was already obsessed with it and like learning about it, but now I've actually done something and basically syndicated this robotics team, if you will. Yeah. I'm like, I can do this. And the power behind it is that it changes lives. Like, just like I was able to influence these lives of these little 2nd and 3rd grade students forever, like little kids going down to Texas from North Idaho, being able to see NASA and all that. Like, when you look at what you can accomplish in a real estate syndication for the investors, for the residents, for the community, it makes my heart just like burst and swell. It's like the best thing ever. And so that it was just jumped into that. Now I just launched with Camilla Jess, we just launched the Impact Investing Network. And the reason that that is so important to my heart is, and this is about staying true to yourself, like that whole conversation we were just having. It's like, be true to yourself, be true to why did you get into real estate? Well, I got into real estate syndication because it was a full circle win. Like, come on, I have a background in elementary education. Like elementary teachers have these huge hearts, right? And so they're all about like rallying for the underdog and helping the other kids, you know, helping kids and everything. Well, this is helping adults. And I see it like, wow, if you can provide these elements for adults so that adults are like the residents are grounded and they are, they feel safe, they feel secure. How are they going to respond to the world around them? How are they going to respond to the kids in their life? How are they going to respond at their job, in the community? Like, it's such a cool concept.
Yeah.
I'll pause and breathe.
Okay, cool.
Coming up for air here.
Right. Yeah. So, but you mentioned that you came from like a residential family background too, right? So, your father was a realtor, I think you said?
Yeah. So, and since I'm in my husband's office, there's my grandpa's Centurion from when he worked at Century 21. And he did like in the 70s, he did something like 60 or 80 transactions in a year. Wow. This is like, you're doing carbon copy contracts and hand delivering and like driving around. So it's a really big deal. And my dad was also a really successful residential real estate agent. And then I actually got into residential real estate. I left. So this is where I like go in and out. So it's like as an education. And then I realized like, but I'm going to regret. I was in my mid-20s. I was single. I'm like, I'm going to regret if I don't take this bet on myself. Like there's no better time in my life than I'm not going to mess anyone up. The worst thing that's going to happen is I'm going to lose my house. You know what I mean? I'm like, what's the worst thing that's really going to happen? Yeah. It's only going to mess me up. It won't mess anybody else up.
Right.
So I jumped in and I was very successful. I didn't like how it was changing me and I didn't know how to manage that. So I was becoming, just one of those stereotypical and I say stereotypical because they're not all like this, but I was just like stereotypical, uptight, successful businesswoman. Okay. There are lots of words that people could put in there that I don't choose to say.
Yeah, if they're listening, I'm sure that they're going through their brain right now. Yeah,
exactly.
You know, but it's fine.
You can just throw Karen in there. I can be like, please, Karen.
Yeah, you can give them one. That's fine. Yeah,
I'll give you one. So I'm like, this is not who I want to be. And now I have like, I made a lot of money, more money than I could ever make in education, but money doesn't make happiness.
Right.
And that's where I really had this like epiphany. I've never been a money chaser. I've been a solution finder and a, servant to others. And so it was nice to have that money. It was nice to have the ease of the money and just, drop everything, go to San Francisco, drive over and eat at our favorite restaurants and stuff. Right. That was fun.
Yeah.
But the stress level and not being able to manage it well, to not have the tools, the strategies, the support and everything, it wasn't good. So I went back to education. I'm like, wow, I could have all this money, but I really like being able to serve and have this influence in kids' lives.
Yeah.
So now it's really full circle because after that, like fast forward, if we go like, 10x this, it's like, I end up marrying this amazing man. We have a family. I homeschool. I go back into public ed. We have rentals. I manage them, all that. So I've had like a lot of really cool experience over the years. But once I found syndication, it was more like, this is it. This is what I'm talking about. Like it brought all of Julie together. I'm like, every part of who I am is like harmonious in the syndication process. And I really love that.
Right. So the first deal, whether you were like a GP or an LP, what was the first deal you started, like an actual real estate deal that you either helped syndicate or syndicated yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I jumped in on a deal and it was passive and it was in Huntsville, Alabama. And it was fantastic, just under 300 units. And it's been a really great experience. I made a commitment to myself that before I actually GP'd on my own, I really wanted to have experiences on my own, because nothing teaches you more than experience teaches you. And if somebody has had zero experience in real estate, and then they've had zero experience in a syndication in the process, and they're trying to be like, hey, yeah, give me your money, I know all about this, like, yeah, let's just slow everything down, please. So I've taken like such a different path than most people do. It's a little painful, and sometimes I question my path, but I'm just going to stay true to it. So I went down the path of passive investing. I went down the path of turning a 401k into a self-directed 401k. I've taken all these little paths. I've created infinite banking accounts, and like, okay, well, who's good at that? And how does that actually work? Like, if these are strategies I'm actually going to recommend to my passive investors, like, how can I say, hey, drink this Kool-Aid, it's really good?
Yeah.
Like,
right. And you're not drinking it. Yeah.
If I'm not drinking it, then I have no business saying like, yeah, this is really great, try this. I'm in the middle right now. Hey, this is so good. I haven't tried it, but everyone else has written reviews that say it's great, except for that one guy.
The one guy with one bad review. Yeah.
Don't trust him. So, it's been a slower process than a lot of people. And it's been interesting watching a lot of people that jumped in, and I say jumped in loosely, but, entered the syndication space around the same time as I did, and tackled their first deal. And it's like, I just have such deep conviction on, I've submitted LOIs and I've been passed up and everything, but I have such a deep conviction of knowledge of where we're at in our economy, in the cycle. I've lived through it throughout my entire life. And I am like so unwilling to compromise on certain points. And so I just remind myself, like, be true to yourself, be true to what you have known and what you have experienced, and it will pay out dividends.
Right. And then, so what kind of, so now that you are more experienced than that first deal and doing more syndications, I would assume since then, what are they're multifamily? Are there like particular places in the country that you go to try to invest in? Like, how do you find where you're going to start these projects?
Right. So I absolutely love the Huntsville market. That was my husband's recommendation, and that's actually where we're currently invested. I love that market. We've taken time to travel there, to get to know brokers, to actually drive the area. Our kids were like, beauty of homeschooling, like doing virtual school. I was like, okay, we just like spend the morning for 2 hours at the coffee shop, do school, and then go do business. So it was really, I love that part. Sidebar, I love that part because I want them immersed in this. I don't know what the world they're going to enter is like, like by the time they're adults, I don't know, but they're in these years where I can give them these other experiences. I love Columbus. That was always on my list. And I actually have a team there. So it's exciting. We have a really powerful team and 2 boots on the ground and 2 of us that live outside of the area. So pretty nimble. Absolutely love that. And then also, I have a team that's down in Wichita, and that's it's an interesting market, but it's less competitive and provides a lot of stability. So, what I do is, a lot of people have probably looked at Neil Balla's metrics on choosing a market, and you're looking at your population growth. You're looking at, is the housing increasing, decreasing, like the value of homes? Are jobs coming or going? What's the crime rate, right? We're looking at all this data to even just see if this is a community worthwhile. But here's the asterisk I'd like to throw in there. I happen to live in a really small town. We've already established that.
Yep.
My small town has a housing crisis. It is problematic. But if you are looking at the metrics like this, you're only gravitating towards larger cities.
Yeah.
And so if you actually get to know areas, and then you start, like expanding out into the tertiary markets, and you start looking at what are these little outlying markets, because this town that I live in is not going to go away. People will always need housing. Yeah. People will need these things. So, it's a different play. It's something that I've been toying with a lot more, is like trying to find some of those smaller communities that have the same problem my community does. So again, finding a solution.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So one of the things, and this is going back to an earlier answer that you gave, because I tend to bounce around a little bit, but one of the things that you mentioned was just like deciding in the moment. You said you were in your mid-20s, and the only person that you were going to hurt was yourself. And a lot of the people that listen to this show, the majority of my audience is between the ages of 25 and 35. So they're either new in the real estate industry in whatever capacity that they're in, whether they're whatever job title, but they're new to the real estate industry, or they, because I know some of the listeners, because they're friends of mine, they're in other walks of life and want to invest in real estate. So like, how do you know when that time to like make that jump is? Like if you're thinking of investing in real estate, whether you want to do the stuff that you're doing or invest passively or whatever, like was there things going, like bells going off in your brain, like, hey, this is why this was the right time? I know you said it was because you weren't going to hurt anybody else, but like, why did that just all of a sudden just pop into your head?
Well, I come from an entrepreneurial background. So, it was just a matter of me growing into the ability to take that risk and to bet on myself and to trust myself and to say, we can do this. Because I was alone in it, right? Yeah. Like I can do this. And we have to have belief in ourselves, right? We have to actually cheer ourselves on and say like, okay, you've got this, you can tackle this, you've done, and you go back through like, well, look at these things that you've done. The older you get, the more things you have to look back on to go like, dang, I've done a lot of stuff.
Yeah, right.
And I'm batting pretty good. Not 1,000, but I don't know baseball well. So.
Yeah, well, 1,000 would be amazing. Yeah,
right,
like
that's
the best.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Is that perfect?
Yeah,
right.
That's perfect.
Okay, I'm not batting 1,000, but maybe I'm at like 850,
which is still really good.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like,
yeah.
I've been really successful with things because of who I am. And so now you have to evaluate like your own personal character. And then I believe in looking at your future self. And that's how I've learned to phrase it, I think, over the last few years, is that you have to look ahead. Like so often we're living in the moment that we're just absorbed and distracted by everything right here and right now. And that's temporary. It's not forever. It's laying the track for tomorrow's tomorrow. So you have to go to your future self and you look back and say, like, where do I see myself down the road? And when that person looks back at me, what are they telling me to do? What are they encouraging me to do?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I can do this. Like I visualize my future self and she's like super stoked and she's like, you're on the right track, like just keep doing it.
Go get him, Julie. Yeah.
I know, seriously.
Yeah.
But you have to have something internal going on because you can't just keep going on your own. You'll run out of steam.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like all those masks that we were talking about,
Right.
It's like you can get tired of playing all the different roles. But when it comes to investing, oh my gosh, like people need to be investing in real estate early and often. I'm a firm believer in that. So I used to be anti-stock market and now I've actually come full circle on that. And I'm like, okay, no, you really need to be completely, truly diversified. So have some on the stocks, like that's fine. Do that, but have your real estate. And here's what a lot of the people are missing out with the real estate because they don't understand. Say with real estate syndications, if you're a passive investor, you're completely in a deal without having to lift a single penny. So I like to say, like, if you're ordering a pizza, if you haven't heard about syndication, because I haven't heard enough episodes to know how much it's been spoken about, but I like using a pizza analogy. Some people think I'm goofy, but everybody has syndicated something at some point in their life. You're at your office, whatever, you're with your friends, everybody chips in money, you buy pizza and somebody makes the phone call, somebody goes, picks it up or meets a delivery person. Well, that's a syndication right there. You guys all pooled your resources together. You got the pizza, and now you get to enjoy your part. And maybe all you had to do is put the money in, but you're reaping all the benefits and rewards.
Right.
Well, think about real estate syndication, except now you're getting a K-1, which is a tax statement that you're getting at the end of the year saying, wow, here are your deductions that you can take. Oh, by the way, asterisk. I'm not a CPA. I'm not giving you tax advice.
Yeah, right. Disclaimer.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
disclaimers.
Right.
Okay, we're covered. It's like those benefits can travel with you. They can go back in time by so many years. They can go forward in time, depending on what the current administration, right? But I mean, like, so now you're offsetting your income. So if you are trying to, and some of your younger listeners, like, listen to me, I'm like the old granny here. Some of those younger listeners out there,
those whippersnappers,
those young whippersnappers, they're batting 1,000.
Yeah, right.
They might have e-commerce stores. So right now I'm invested. That's another way of diversifying, right? Is okay, well, maybe you're crushing it over on e-commerce, but what's the point of making a bunch of money if you're having to pay a ton of taxes? So when you have that real estate syndication and it's a passive investment, now you can make a ton of money in these different areas, but it's now going to be offset. And that's huge. Now, again, disclaimer, you have to talk to your professional, and a traditional CPA is not a real estate CPA. So like, you are not going to go to your general practitioner doctor person, to have a root canal. You're going to go to a dentist.
Right.
And even within dentists, there's a specific person that does the root canal. So like, you want to go to someone that is actually specialized in this and have a strategy set up from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So that it does actually work the way you intend it to.
Right. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, that one of the people that's listens to this episode, and it may be me or it may not be me, has no money. And they're just like, well, I really want to invest in real estate, but I don't have like the funds, because we've talked several times on this show about multifamily syndication. And more often than not, it's like, 20,000 minimum investment to get involved with whoever it is that you're getting involved in. But if you're 25 years old and you just have $20,000 just sitting there that you want to just like burn a hole in your pocket that you want to go invest, then God bless you, like, good for you. But that's not the case a lot of the times. And I think that is one of the things that scares people off from real estate investing, or just investing in general, because it's obviously a long game, or a longer game than just like, hey, here's money, and then all of a sudden I get money back and it's way more than I just gave you. But so what are is that something that you see also, or is that something that there's ways to kind of get around that?
Well, as we're speaking to people that, are in their early career years and developing and establishing themselves financially, those are challenges that are very common and normal, but that type of person is already thinking like way ahead of most of their peers. Yeah. So there are a few different options. Like, you can look into what do you have in, say, a 401k or an account like that you have set up with your employer, if you have, those established, and you can potentially borrow against that. If you not borrow against that, but like roll it over, just as I did, like roll it over into a self-directed. Please, I'm going to upset some people. Please don't use a self-directed IRA. Please don't. Like, there's UBIT taxes involved, and a lot of people don't understand that. And that can make you liable for a lot more money than you actually invested. And you could actually end up losing money. And I know that some people say like, oh, it's just a little bit, it's a small percentage. It's like, wasn't the purpose to like make money and generate money? So anyway, like, try to roll it over into like a solo 401 account of sorts. You can message me at julieholly.com, shoot me a message, and I will connect you up with people that I've personally used that I trust, like, and trust, and have accounts with. But all this to say, like, rolling over into an account, I think the most important thing, though, for someone at this point, this juncture, is also establishing relationships with investors that they know, like, and trust, like operators, general partners, right, that are actually investing. And there are often the little fragments left at the end of a deal where it's like, hey, you can come in for $5,000, like, you can come in. So, but you have to have those relationships established so that you're on their radar and they know you, like, you, trust you. So they will want to go to bat for you and say, just bring your 5K here. And at least you're in the game and you've started that journey and you're growing your money.
Yeah. Right.
You started.
Yeah.
You can't advance until you start. So, and then the other concept is to go into what everybody's going into right now, which is funds. So, I'm concerned about funds, quite frankly. So I'm going to say this to people, and I am sure that people have spoken about funds on your, podcast already. Yeah. But I think that the important thing to keep in mind is you really need to vet who's behind the fund and what they're actually investing in. I don't have a crystal ball. Okay. So, but I don't mind throwing this concept out there. And that is, just as we saw the mortgage crisis in 2008, I'm wondering during this next, economic correction, whatever we want to call it, I'm wondering what's going to happen with these funds, because they become very alluring to a lot of people. And you don't always know how they're being managed and where your money's going. So just really be wide-eyed if you're going to go that route. But that's a great way to put 5,000 in, 10,000, like a smaller chunk. Even, I mean, you can get in at 500 in some funds.
Yeah, right. But again, I feel like it's all goes back to the relationship thing. I feel like that's the biggest one, the know, like, and trust. So if you know somebody, that's probably the best way to at least, you know, even if there's a way to get involved for less, you know, than what a normal syndication would require for you to get involved in. I think that's a great point. So at what point in this process did you start the podcast? You said it was a year and a half ago?
Yeah. So I started it March 2nd of 2020.
Okay.
I had the idea in my head the fall before, so in 2019, and that's when I had discovered real estate syndication was in 2019, and went to a seminar, actually 2018, I guess. But anyway, I was at a seminar. I'd already been toying with this idea, spoke to some people that were at the seminar who were podcasters, and just kind of let the idea percolate, but started recording in December of 2019, but didn't launch and release until March of 2020.
Right. And then is that, I mean, it's obviously predominantly real estate mindset focused, like I mentioned earlier. Has that helped grow your syndication relationships?
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. It's huge. It's done so much. And I feel like, you know, people are like, oh, the podcasting space is getting oversaturated. You know, there's no more space. Whatever. Like, you know, in a similar vein, perhaps to you, it's like, I just want to get to know my tribe. Who is my tribe? I'm stuck up here all alone. You know, those of you who live in cities, it's the first time you're stuck alone. You know, I don't have syndicators up in my neck of the woods. They're like 2.5 hours away from me, really. And so anyway, it's a great way to get to know people, to connect with people. Definitely like exploded just the people within my sphere. And I haven't met anybody that I don't like. They're just amazing. I I told you earlier, I feel like everybody's my favorite, and it's not disingenuous. Like, there's so many amazing people out in this world. Definitely helped my syndication, definitely helped boost everything and move things forward. And yeah, there's Mindset Mondays, because when I was in the classroom teaching, it was like, I was teaching these little 8-year-olds about mindset. Like, if you don't have your mind made up, if you are talking trash in between your ears, you will not go forward. So I feel like there's this balance between like professional development and being able to think clearly and realistically. And so that's why I decided 2 episodes a week. One is mindset, because that's super important. One is real estate, somebody in the profession that is rocking it. And I try to spice that up, like you, I'm sure, like, you know, try to get different people, not like, okay, let me have everybody that's the same niche.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We've done I mean, I don't know how many different, I mean, you've done more episodes than me, but how many different professions we've had, or like, you know, areas of real estate that we've covered over the life of the show, but it's significant. And just looking at my schedules just since the beginning of January all the way through like when this episode is going to post and then beyond, it's still just like all over the place, because I think that is what helps people that are my audience like look for, because they, you know, they're listening to us talk about not all real estate specific stuff, but you get an idea of like how you, like what your journey was like to get to this point. And I think that's what I like to kind of give to my listeners is like, I sell title insurance. Like, that's my 9 to 5. And I am the coolest guy in title insurance. I would take that to
Definitely.
the bank. Definitely. But I think that it helps, because then now I'm growing relationships with the people on the other end. And then the people that are listening are also like, oh, wow, like I'm also a teacher like Julie was, you know, and now I want to get involved in real estate or whatever it is. So I think that's how it all kind of like works together. Excuse me. And then my network grows, because now not only am I talking to you, but I'm talking to everybody else that's listening to the show. And it just helps everybody kind of work together. It's like, you can't always see it, but it's like the below the surface kind of thing, like how it's kind of growing, and you don't even realize it. But next thing you know, you have people like last week, I had 2 people reach out to me separately, been like, hey, I need a new title person. Like, let's talk. And I'm like, oh my God, it's actually working. You know, so.
And I would say it takes time. So when I launched the podcast, I made a commitment. I'm like, I'm not judging anything for 1 year. For the first year, I'm just going to be disciplined. I knew nothing. And I was editing at that time. I made a commitment. I'm going to self-edit. I'm going to do everything. I'm running this show on my own for the first year. And I like, come hell or high water, those episodes will be released. And just by nature of doing that alone, that level of credibility I built with myself, that I could produce the content. And honestly, I was terrified that people wouldn't want to come on my show. I'm like, who am I? Like, I am a nobody of nobody. And who's going to want to come here? And it's like, just to watch that self-confidence grow, and to just have people generously willing to come on to a fledgling show and support it and produce amazing content. The whole experience is fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And I mean, just a quick sidebar, I've seen three more people / organizations in my title world, start shows within the last couple months. So it's like, people are clearly looking at me and being like, oh, wow, that's actually like a really good idea. So not that I'm like a trailblazer, but I'm a trailblazer. So
I'm going to jump on that too, because I was like, hey, my podcast is like the seminar lobby where you actually learn through conversation with people.
Yeah.
And it's like unscripted, and we're just going to have this casual conversation, blah, blah, blah. Like, I had a great intro. I read Storybrand. Storybrand was one of our book club books. And I'm like, wow, I got a lot of reworking to do. All this to say is like, now everybody has these unscripted conversations that are authentic. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I'll take cred. No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Yeah. Well, I think that's just, I mean, for me, I needed the script at the beginning because I was not comfortable doing this. You know what I mean? And then as I just kind of got better at it, I was like, oh, you idiot. You go to lunches with people all the time, or events all the time. You just talk to people nonstop. Why is this different? And it's not, I mean, we're just having a conversation. Like, if we were just sitting down, having lunch together, talking about real estate, this would honestly be a lot of what we would talk about. Maybe not as, like, I don't know, bells and whistles type thing, but it would still.
I don't know. I'm a bells and whistles kind of girl.
Okay, fine. Then there will be bells and whistles all over the place. Yeah, right.
And confetti. Okay, yeah. I'm just saying. I pull it all out when I meet people.
Right, like all the way, 100%.
All the way.
But it's just like one of those things that I think that it just, like, the podcast itself has just helped me grow, and I think that that's really important. So, outdoor mountain bike enthusiast.
Huge.
Yeah. Like, talk to me about that. Like, mountain, like, so are you like the one, like the helmet with like the face shield thing and like running up and down the track and all that kind of stuff?
No, those are just downhillers.
Okay.
I'm like,
not a downhiller.
They're just, well, actually I am, but I don't. So I used to rock climb a ton in Yosemite, and I've always had a propensity to go towards, like, quote, extreme sports. I have three older brothers. That's what I always say. I'm like, I have three older brothers.
And then people get it. Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. Right. Enough said.
Right.
Like,
enough said.
I had to show up. So anyhow, moving to North Idaho, where I lived in California in Modesto, it was always a haul to get places. You always had to travel like 2 hours to go do anything. Now where I live, I can go 7 minutes out my door and be in like single track heaven. And so there's a group of mountain bikers here locally. This is my third season with them, and it's super fun. We go into bear country, grizzly country. There's no cell phone reception. You're deep in the wilderness. And I always kind of joke around, like, if you can hike it, we can bike it. Yeah. So, and it's tons of personal development, lots of deep digging. There's a gentleman who's 72 that rides with us and is like a better rider than me. He's amazing. And he's I want to be like you when I grow up.
Right.
And he always says, you got to suffer before you smile. And it's kind of this joke because we're always having to grind uphill, but then we get this sweet, like, 6 miles of crazy, awesome downhill. And that's where I differ from the downhillers. Like, they bypass the suffering. They go for the instant gratification.
Yeah.
But I do that, like, internal work, grinding.
Have you ever ran across a grizzly?
I haven't run across a grizzly, but I've had lots of black bear experience.
Yeah.
So they'll just like go across our path. So
yeah, we had that the other day here in New Jersey. We had we were on a hike because my girlfriend and I like to go on hikes, and we were going up the trail, and she was like, I like where I grew up in New Jersey is more rural than what I think people like think of when they think of New Jersey. So like we get bears all the time. My parents have goats and a horse in their backyard. So it's like a little bit different than what people would think
So
of
you're like
somebody like
West New
Northwest
Jersey?
Jersey. Yeah, right.
Okay.
And so we're going up this trail, and I've been around bears before, like black bears. And she goes, "Oh my God, is that a bear?" And there was literally like probably a 350-pound black bear, like up the hill a little bit, just kind of like standing there, like looking at us. And she was like, "We need to run." I was like, "No, you don't run. Like that's the one thing
No.
that I know that you don't do."
Right,
Um,
never.
so I was just like, we just got to chill. We got to like just slowly back away. There was a guy coming down the path. I didn't want to start making noise because I was afraid the bear was going to go like up towards him and, you know, maul him. We didn't want that. So I like made him aware that there was the bear, and then the bear kind of just sauntered on through because they're like, I don't know, they're like dogs. You know what I mean? They just kind of like, you make a lot of noise and then just be like, oh, you know, and then they'll run away. So
It's so true. Like it's funny. Yesterday, so our kids, they don't like the type of biking that we do because now they're involved in it, and they're 12 and 10.
yeah,
But I tell them like, this is just personal development. Like you don't have to like it, but you'll thank me when you're older because it just develops so much of who you are. And like, whoa, I like just to see their growth over the last year. It's extraordinary. And you know, that's really important. They don't like team sports. So I'm like, you have to do something. Like
yeah,
you don't grow if you're like in your comfort zone. You gotta
right.
like push out. But we were out on this trail yesterday, and it is grizzly country. They actually have like barbed wire. They're doing like studies wrapped around trees to get like tufts of hair, you know, so they can study the bears and stuff. But yeah they're like skeletons of deer scattered on this trail. And like I rode over this, I have this doesn't like freak your audience out. I like rode over, I didn't realize it. I was going too fast, realized it like as I'm going over, I'm like, what? That's like a skeleton and a vertebrae, and like what? It was kind of okay.
Yeah, right.
Make noise. I mean, like the critters out in the wilderness, they don't want to hurt us.
Yeah.
We're just all sharing the same space, and
right.
as long as they know you're there, they're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. So PSA for everybody listening, don't run away from black bears. I think that's one thing that, you know, a good takeaway from this episode would be if there's if there's one, don't run away from a black bear.
Don't run away. Just make noise.
Yeah. Right. Make a lot of noise or just chill, and they'll chill and then they'll just wander away. But anyway, so I do want to just touch on the real estate thing one more time before we get into our closing segment. So I know we talked about like how, like, when would people that may be, you know, interested in getting involved in real estate, but don't necessarily think that they have the funds, but maybe people that do have the funds that would be interested in investing in real estate or are like just thinking about it. Like, what is, you said early and often, I know already, but what would be like a piece of advice you would give somebody starting out their real estate career?
They're already doing the first thing that I'd highly recommend, and that is they're immersing themselves. They're listening to your podcast, so they're getting the dialect. Like it's a different vocabulary in every industry. It has its own vocabulary, and so you're just becoming acquainted at least with the terminology. Oh, syndication, not a scary word. I get pizza. That's cool. So
pizza's like, a great. I never got the pizza analogy on this show, so I think that's a great analogy. It's a great way to think about it. Yeah.
Thank you. I think some experienced syndicators looked at me like, what? And I'm like, elementary school teacher. I don't know. I like to keep
break it down.
Keep life simple.
Right.
But and I could get deeper into the pizza analogy, but I won't today. But all that to say, like, definitely know the vocabulary, but getting to know people. So don't be afraid. Like, I don't bite. I'm a friendly person. Hop over to my website, julieholly.com, schedule a time to talk. It's not an obligation or anything. And it's just, the more people you speak with, the more you're going to find out who you resonate with, where your values align, because not like, for instance, although I'm not money driven, I do have a responsibility, and I bear it heavily, to provide solid returns, uncompromised returns to my investors and everything. You need to understand what is driving that person that's investing, and make sure that that's something similar to you. Don't just go trust, anybody with your money. Like, make sure it's somebody that you're like, okay, we share a similar value. And the only way you're going to do that is if you're having conversations.
Yeah. No, I think that's great advice. I mean, and that also took care of my next question, which was going to be like, let's just say somebody's interested in being like, hey, Julie, like, I want to get involved with some of the projects that you're working on. So I think you just said it, julieholly.com. There you go.
Keep it simple.
Yeah,
like
right.
I have a fancy 3keysinvestments.com, but I'm like, julieholly.com has everything.
It's
everything all in one spot.
Yeah.
It is my hub.
Yeah. It's like the morningspotlight.com. There's my plug. That's my hub, so anything that you would ever want to do with Mike Ham is on the morningspotlight.com. So that's why like Mike Ham, Morning Spotlight, title insurance, it's just like interwoven synonymous stuff. And that's like the brand, so being yourself helps build a brand. There you go.
And that's why when I ended up taking I have a website where I do some faith-based writing, and WRIT. Not some people hear that and they're like, writing. We already heard about your writing. No, writing. And so I just took my julieholly.com off of that because people remember names. People care about people. And it's like, I might not remember what your investment company is, but I remember who you were.
Yeah.
And I want to go to your site.
Right. Awesome. So we've touched on so much stuff, and we talked I just looked at the clock and I was like, oh my God, we've been talking for forever, which is fantastic. I mean, those are always
get a podcaster on your podcast,
Exactly. That's what my longest episodes ever are all podcasters. Like, I mean, my top 3 right now, podcasters, this one is going to come in, I would say like right at the top, if not the top podcasters. So, but the conversation has just been off the charts. It hasn't been difficult to try to, I haven't dragged you at all. So,
well, they have to know that we were talking about sometimes you have guests where you're encouraging the conversation a little more than other times.
Right. Yeah. I didn't say that on the show. I said that off air. Yeah.
Oh, did I just say that on the show? You didn't want to say that?
No, I don't know. I have no idea, honestly. It was going to stay in because I don't really do that many edits. But yeah, sometimes you have people that you have to help along, maybe not drag along. Encourage. And hopefully their energy comes up and meets my general energy, which is normally pretty high. And like right out of the gate, like we were just going and like it was fantastic. So but we've made it to the end of the episode, and we should probably do like another one because I feel like we just keep going. But we're gonna do our closing segment, which we call Under the Spotlight. So the Spotlighters, which is what I call the Spotlighters, what I call the Morning Spotlight listeners, have listened to us talk for an hour and 15 minutes, which is longer than they normally.
Wow, you guys are awesome for listening.
Yeah, way to go. Way to make it all the way to the end like you always do. So if there's one thing that you want the Spotlighters to walk away from this episode with, what would that one thing be? So you are under the spotlight.
Awesome. Don't hesitate to take action. You're going to face fears. You're going to there are going to be lots of things in your head, and they're going to have lots of naysayers in your life, but you need to what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Really? Don't live in regret, jump in, even if it makes you nervous, even if it's uncomfortable, whatever it is. This isn't about investing alone, but whatever it is, if you are feeling that internal, oh, I really want to do this, but, and then that but is what's stopping you, then you are actually putting a stop gate to if you think about a river and you're just damming it right there and you're cutting the current off of your life. And so you need to unplug that dam and don't let that dam get built or take it down so that you can have this stream flowing through your life. That's the current might get choppy at times. That's okay. And it might get all nice and smooth sometimes when you're just floating. That's okay. But be in the river, let it flow, and enjoy the process and the ride along the way. So it's super important to do that, even if you're afraid.
Awesome.
In
love
all of
it.
life.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's great under the spotlight. One point. So we've mentioned julieholly.com a bunch of times. So if people want more Julie, is that the one place you want me to send them? julieholly.com?
Yeah, that is the one place. So if you're interested in investing, but it seems intimidating, I have so many resources on that website that you can just click and download. So you can click and download Syndication Made Simple, which just breaks things down into really friendly terms. You could get something higher level if you're already a little advanced. I took a lot of time in 2020 to write up multifamily, why you should invest in multifamily. And that is higher level, and it has lots of numbers and facts and stats. And if you're just looking for you're just I just love Mike's show and I just want to hang out here, and you're just not ready to invest, then jump and get my best books reading list. So my book club, you can join the book club, but there's a reading list on there, and really great books.
Yeah. All right. So, awesome. And then the podcast is anywhere podcasts are offered, right?
Anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah.
So you can go to julieholly.com and click on the podcast link, and you can get there. So one thing that is new that I do not have on my new website, that that this is me keeping my my river flowing, and that is I actually was like, I need to actually start promoting my coaching services. I haven't done that. I've always done it privately, quietly, but I do one-on-one coaching. So if someone's interested, they're like, gosh, I want to keep the river of my life flowing, and I have this dam and I just need to unstuck, like, reach out to me. You know, that's kind of
so it's like mindset coaching.
It's mindset coaching.
Okay.
It is. No, I mean, yes, I can coach on investing and everything, but honestly, kind of my heart purpose is people become the best version of themselves, and they can understand anything. You can learn anything when you're unstuck in your mind. Yeah.
No, I think that's awesome. And also the podcast art, I think, is awesome. Like all it's got like a Brady Bunch feel, but it's obviously all you. But I like it a lot. It's not just like one picture of me, like, it's actually kind of cool. So kudos to you on the podcast art. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I made mine. It was like my girlfriend took a picture,
super cool.
Portrait mode on iPhone, and then she put a filter on it, and I was like, podcast art. There we go. We're good to go.
Okay, that's exactly bedroom wall, blank bedroom wall. And then just portrait mode, and just filtered it to a black screen.
Yep, exactly. It's fantastic. All right. So like I said before, I will put all of Julie's links in the show notes, the podcast links, julieholly.com. If you somehow can't spell her name, everything will be in there. So if you do want to reach out, I would highly recommend you do so. I will also put my links, like I always do, in the show notes as well. So if for some reason you feel intimidated by Julie, because she's obviously very intimidating, you want to go through me to get to her, that's fine too. So themorningspotlight.com is my hub. Themorningspotlight@gmail.com is my email address. So please reach out to me if you want to connect with Julie also. So Julie, thank you again for coming on with us today. This was I didn't even expect we were going to get this awesome of an episode, but I feel like this was probably my favorite episode that I've recorded so far. So yeah.
Aww.
And I've done some cool episodes, let me tell you.
That's a big deal. That's
a big deal.
That's a huge honor. And I just have to say kudos to spotlighters that have made it this far.
Yes.
If you've made it this far and you message me, I might just send you some gummy bears. It's like a thing for me. I take gummy bears on all my mountain bike rides. So.
There you go. Yeah. So if that's a great thing. So there you go. So if you made it this far, gummy bears, I'm not going to send you anything because
I will send you gummy bears if you made it this far and you reach out to me, because I'm like, this is a long episode, but it's been so much fun.
Yeah, no, it's been a lot of fun. And then so whenever this posts, also, I mean, I'm not going to try to divulge what your future episodes are going to look like, but I think I might be on a future episode of Ask Me How I Know.
Dun,
so
dun, dun.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Look out for a season.
She just ruined it for everybody.
Yeah, whatever the next season is. Season 2.
You're going to be in season 2.
Season 2. So I will be in season 2. Spoiler alert for everybody listening. But that's another, there's my nugget for everybody that made it this far, because then if they somehow haven't gotten enough Mike and Julie at this point, they're going to get more of it later in the year or whenever that posts. So,
right. And then you have to wear a suit and tie on that one.
No, I won't. I got to take the brand everywhere I go, So like, I might honestly be wearing this exact same outfit on your show.
I'm going to take a screenshot.
Yeah, take a quick screenshot. Oh yeah, but you'll see the video. So like, my black hat and my spotlighter shirt. So, awesome.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
Thanks so
much. All right.
much.
Of course, Julie, thank you so much again for coming on with us, and the Spotlighters, thank you for listening and making it all the way to the end of this episode with us, and we will catch you next time.